So we're doing something a little bit different. We're going to veer off of the series we've been doing and kind of talk about us as a church, what we're about, what we're not about. And so um, hopefully that'll bring a little clarity. Some of you guys have been coming for a long time. You've heard this before, um, especially middle child, youngest child, life. Um, they've heard this more times than they have fingers and toes, feels like. I'll bet to them. Um, but it's important for us to remember because I was talking with somebody last night, and part of that conversation was how easily we get distracted as individuals. God's always there. He's always present. He's never going to fail us. He's never going to forget us. But I wish that the same were true for us. It's not. We get distracted like a 3-year-old in a toy store with a laser light show. I mean, it's pathetic. But
Squirrel.
Right. Exactly.
exactly. There you go. Um, but at any rate, we wanted to just kind of take a quick time to take a look at the vision that God's given us for this church and therefore the mission that He's given us to do, how to accomplish that vision. So, just really quick, I'm just going to read you the nice, boring vision statement. Um, to see the world transformed through the life changing power of Jesus Christ in disciples who make disciples. And it's not the most exciting statement out there, and these things almost never are. And that's okay. But it's powerful because what it tells us that we're not just trying to meet together and just be a club that gathers on Sunday mornings and has fun and enjoys each other's company. And hey, we sing some songs too while we're at it. There's a purpose to it all because Christ had the power, if he chose, when each and every single one of us got saved, he could have just taken us up to heaven right then and there. He did it a couple times before in the Old Testament, and so he could have done it again. And if we had no purpose here on earth, he might well have done that. Um, but he does have a purpose for us, and so, and that is to see that the gospel reaches the whole world, and that we are changed in that process. So that's kind of the vision because it's not also just centered here in Comanche. It's for the whole world. Yes, this is kind of where our world rubs the most against the rest of it. Um, our lives are intertwined with people at school, at workplaces, at wherever. This is it, but it's not just for Comanche or Comanche County. It's for the world because God has given us the ability with the internet and through other means as well to be able to have an effect on the world. And so we intend to utilize those as God makes those opportunities come forth again. But um, that's the vision. And it really is, it's a huge God sized task that we can't accomplish, but He can. And He's more than happy to use us along the way. So we're like the little 5-year-old kid who comes up to Dad and says, "Dad, can I help you build the thing you're building?" And, we're in the way and we do things clumsily, but we're glad to help out. And He's glad to have our company, glad to teach us things along the way, and of course to accomplish the mission He's given us. And so, in order to accomplish that vision, we've got to get on mission. And this is where it's another thing that we get distracted from. I'm just going to go ahead and read you that mission statement and just give a little clarity on that. It says to be a community of Jesus' disciples dedicated to glorifying God in everyday life through worship, growing in Christ likeness, and sharing the gospel with everyone our lives touch. So a couple things I want to touch on in that is, first of all, just that word community, because we're supposed to be a community of Jesus disciples. And that might be the most powerful tool God has given us um, because 58% of people in America feel like nobody knows them well. Better than half. And if you start talking about just people who feel lonely on a regular basis or people who wrestle with loneliness in some capacity, those numbers can, depending on the survey, it can go really high, um, especially back in COVID, when we're all in lockdown or trying to avoid contact with other people. Um, that was a big deal. It's getting better. It's getting better, thankfully. But to say that the world is starved for real human interaction, I think is an understatement. And it might be something that we don't fully grasp because we have phones with social media at our fingertips all day long, if that's what we want. But it's not meaningful contact. You can, but very few of us use it that way. I guess I'll say it that way. So we want to be a community, and that's a powerful tool that we have to offer people because the way we do things is that we don't just go and say, "Hey, Jesus, and here's the gospel, and have a good day." And we actually don't even just invite people to Sunday mornings, although that's obviously part of what we'd like people to be involved with. We want to be involved with people's lives. We want to get to know people and to interact, to know what's going on in your life on a Thursday. You know, we're looking forward to knowing that sort of thing, to seeing friendships build. I can't wait to hear the day that, somebody walks up to me and says, "Hey, Ross, me and, my family and this so and so family, we're all going to Disney World together, or we're going camping in Colorado together, or something like that." Can't wait to hear stuff like that. Or even if it's just, we're heading down to, San Antonio for a couple of days and we're going to take in some movies and whatever. Whatever people enjoy, but I want to see that sort of thing happen. And that's part of community. And that's part of what God has given us. But we're not just any community, we're a community of Jesus' disciples, which means that we're very intentional about trying to grow. I'm always trying to point you guys to um, to the fact that we need Him. You don't need to just come listen to me preach. You need to be in your Bible on a regular basis. You need to be digging in into that relationship. You need to be praying every day, if not 100 times a day. You need to be digging in and worshiping Him at times other than Sunday morning. It might be looking like that song you got in your stuck in your head from Sunday morning, or something you heard on the radio. I don't know. It might just look like you're sitting across the table from somebody and you're just like, you know, man, this lunch is so good. Um, I'm just thankful to God for it. He just takes good care of me because that's worship. Um, and so it's all about that. But we worship God through so many different things. And so we want to be Jesus' disciples, dedicated to glorifying God in everyday life. We want to do that through worship. Um, and we want to do it in growing in Christ likeness. And that takes intentional effort. And I wish I could say it was easy, but it's not. I think the best word for it is regular discomfort and pain with intermittent rest periods. God says, "Okay, Ross, you need a break for a minute, so I'll let you catch your breath, and then we're going to go at it again." And that's good because if you've never noticed, when we're comfortable, we don't change. And I don't know about you guys, but I'm not perfect or anything approaching perfect, and I'm bet money neither are you. So we need to be willing to be dedicated to growing to be like Jesus. And then finally, in sharing the gospel with everyone that our lives touch. This is something that it's why we had a couple months ago, we had Chris come out. Is that he was here to encourage us, not just so we would feel better, but so that we would actually be, um, that he would be able to give us courage to go out and talk to people about Jesus. Because if everything we read in the Bible, if we really believe it, then Jesus really is the best thing that's ever happened. Remember singing Graves in the Garden? There's nothing better than you, Lord. Do you really believe that? If if we really believe that, we just talk about it. It's pretty natural. It just flows out. It's kind of, I've used this illustration before, but it's just like a person who is falling in love with somebody and just can't shut up about their sweetheart. And, everyone else gets disgusted and tired of it. And they're like, I'm going to go kill this guy if you don't shut up about him. But that's the way it is. That when we're really seriously infatuated with someone, when we're really dedicated to somebody, that's just the way we get. And so it's supposed to be the same way about Jesus. He works himself naturally in conversations, and sometimes you'd be amazed how easily, when he's on your mind a lot, he just fits right in. And I'm not trying to force things; it just comes naturally. I don't know how else to say it. But everything we do at Live Oak Church, we're trying to run through the filter of that mission. If it's not something that's doing this statement, to be a community of Jesus' disciples dedicated to glorifying God in everyday life through worship, growing in Christ likeness, and sharing the gospel with everyone our lives touches, we just shouldn't mess with it. And it's not say it's not worth doing, but it's not the mission of Live Oak Church. It comes back down to being, chasing squirrels. Are we going to let ourselves be distracted by things that aren't important? And so, in light of that, I wanted to stop and just take a minute and bring up some of the things that we've got on our plate collectively as a church, and what that looks like, and how that is accomplishing the mission. And so, we're going to be bringing up a handful of people to talk about both what we do as a church, what we partner with other ministries with to do, and what another ministry altogether is even doing, but we tend to work closely with. So, um, let's see, I didn't have a specific order, so Tanya, you want to come on up and let's get this started. I know you had a little thing you wanted this.
Well, I mean, um, I've always had some problem thinking that why are we not like other churches? Like, why are we not like so and so? Because we have a lot of mentors who are pastors, and God just reminded me that no, I've made y'all the way you are, um, for a reason. So, and I wanted to kind of make this like a
Yeah.
So if y'all have questions or whatever, y'all just ask or whatever. But so something that God brought up to me was if you want to look at 1 Thessalonians 2:8. If you've got your Bible, and I'm just going to use my phone today because I have a lot to carry up here. I think the way that God has orchestrated Live Oak Church, which is all of us together, is that discipleship is life on life. Like it's bringing people into our lives, and we don't have to make it difficult. Just who are you, and what has God called you to do in your life, and then bring someone along beside you to do that with you. Don't make it something that you're not, because God's putting those people with you because there's a reason. We don't know why, but just invite them over for dinner. And it gets messy because we're all messy and we all have issues. So, but if God has called us as a believer to Him, to Jesus, then we are disciples. So 1 Thessalonians, sorry, I was talking and I didn't hold on. 1 Thessalonians 2:8 says, "We loved you so much that we shared with you not only God's good news, but our own lives too." And I think that's just really important. Um, I looked up the word life there in that word in the Greek, and I'm not going to say it right, suke.
Yeah.
But it's psyche. That's where we get psyche from. It's breath, it's life, it's soul, it's mind. And then I like the last word. It said heartily. It's our heart, but it's heartily. So we we share good news with people, but we share our lives heartily with them as well. Um, so that's our calling. That's your calling. That's our everyone in here. If you're a believer, that's our calling. Um, and then I wanted to look at 1 Corinthians 11:1. Here you go. So 1 Corinthians 11:1. You're just black, and I can't see that.
I need to make the pot bigger.
Probably. 1 Corinthians 11:1. So it starts out and. So I always like to back up in my Bible study and go, okay, what's and about? That means we need to go back and look at what's previous. So 1 Corinthians 10, the end of 1 Corinthians 10, Paul is talking to them and saying, I too, he's talking about how he doesn't like to give offense to Jews or Gentiles or the church of God. I too try to please everyone in everything I do. I don't just do what is best for me, I do what is best for others so that they may be saved. And then we roll into chapter 11. And then there we go. And you should imitate me just as I imitate Christ. And that's not in some passages, some novels. But like that, it's a question to constantly be asking ourselves: am I imitating Christ? Is that what I'm doing with my life? And if I am, that's simple. You know, our kids can be watching. We were talking last night about that. You know, our kids can be watching what we're doing. Our friends, our neighbors, and that's that's just something that comes naturally. If I'm imitating Christ, well then they can imitate me. That's something that we can be saying. So I feel like that's what we should be doing with our lives. I'm gonna have one more verse. 1 Timothy 4:12. This is actually the verse that the kids over in the kids area have been learning this summer. But 1 Timothy 4:12. Don't let anyone think less of you because you are young. Be an example to all believers in what you say, in the way you live, in your love, your faith, and your purity. And I looked at that word example in the Greek, and it's tupos, which actually is the word where we get typos, like typewriter. Um, it's it's making a mark. It's a stroke, a form. It says to be imitated. So we get to be examples to people, and it's a privilege, it's an honor. This isn't just something that we should take lightly, um, but it's something that we don't have to worry about, because if Jesus has already gone before us and he's our great example, so he just goes and he's right there along with us. If we're constantly saying, okay, what's my next step, God? You know, what is we're leaning into that, not on our own. There shouldn't be any uh nervousness, or we don't have to make teaching Jesus a hard thing, because it's just who he is. It's our life. So that's, I feel like that's unique for us here, that I just haven't always seen modeled in my own life. But so on that note, we're starting up Embrace Grace, which if y'all don't know, you've got some little things there in your church. I mean, in your seat. Um, that is a single mom support group, and gosh, I think this is our fourth year or something. We've been doing this for a while.
Yeah.
And not to toot any horn except for Jesus's, because but God was saying, you know, write some names down of ladies that have been touched through this church, but through some of the other ministries that we work with, and then um, through Embrace Grace specifically. And there was 24, 23 ladies names that have been discipled in some form or fashion. And so when you give your tithe or your offering, a lot of that goes to Embrace Grace. So it's a support group for single moms. This is the workbook. It's 2 semesters. I know it looks really fat, but it is 2 semesters, and we're about to kick that off at the end of August the 31st. And like, I mean, we need you. We pray. That's the biggest. Pray for that. If you have a heart for single mamas, if you've been a single mom, you know, you can come in and help alongside the classes We'll be in the evenings on Thursday evenings from 5:30 to 7, and we do childcare. So we also need some help. Childcare, we do a little snack because that's dinner time, and if you're a single mom and you've worked all day, it's hard to go home, get up here at 5:30, and then oh, I gotta feed, my kids. So we do a little snack for the kids in the kids area. We'll do a little snack for the mamas. So if that's something that God puts on your heart, you can help in that way. But prayer is just always the biggest. And the mamas, we learn about the main thing is to learn about who they are in Jesus, to find their identity in Christ, and then to show them what does that look like to teach that to your kids. How do you model that every day to your children, which is what we were just talking about in discipleship. But it's also practical things like meal prep, budgeting, time, using our time, choosing friendships wisely, using our time wisely. Like it's just. And Rena actually is the one who's leading that, but she's out today. So, do you have any questions about Embrace Grace? Have y'all ever heard, Holly, of the Embrace Grace ever? It's actually it's a national thing. The headquarters are in Hearst, but the whole point of Embrace Grace, I'll just give it really quick. The founder she went to church. She grew up her whole life in church, her and her boyfriend, and they were 19, I think, and she got pregnant. And they were like, we have to get an abortion. We can't tell people in our church that we've been sleeping together. And so they ran to Planned Parenthood and were going to get an abortion. And she couldn't. She actually fainted. When she got in there, and they said, "Well, you can't do this today. We're sending you home." And when she came out, and he's like, did you do it?" And she goes, "No." And he goes, "I'm so glad you did. We can't. We got to have this baby." And so they went, and one set of parents was very loving, but the other set was very, "Oh, we're so disgusted and upset with you." Um, but the church was not there for them, and that was not the first place that they could run to, and that should be the first place. Is grace and mercy, and yeah, that's not the biblical way that God says to do things, um, but the Embrace Grace wants to come along and help a church to empower a church to love and care for moms, so single moms, and especially young. It started out with young single moms, but uh, like teenagers. But now it's just any woman that needs some support. Um, yeah, that's all. Other questions?
Yes. Say, because I don't have a license or a vehicle, and he comes with me, is there something that he can do with the guys while I'm in class?
Oh, that's a good question.
That's a good question. Haven't had that question asked.
You'll be thinking about it. That's a great question.
Yep.
Yeah. August the 31st at 5:30 is when we're starting. So, and if a single mama comes and they're pregnant, they get a free baby shower. They're coming in here because Wendy's going to talk about the maternity home here in town. So, yeah. So every single mom gets so y'all are a part of that. Like your tithe goes to baby showers, to help these mamas. So, and that's all I have for Embrace Grace. I don't know if you want to. Okay, I brought that just in case you want to talk about. Talk a little bit about that.
That's good. Everyone come up.
Where do you want me to do it now?
Yeah. Okay. You and coffee. Have a full.
Coffee's the important one.
Okay, we can sit. I need moral support up here. Okay, so Kathy and I are from Next Step. Hi, Norma. Hi, Norma. So I'll let Kathy tell you a little more about Next Step itself in a minute, but we do recovery work there. And the first thing I guess I want to say is that recovery work is not just about drugs and alcohol. Recovery work is about life recovery. We all have an addiction at some point, every single one of us. So we all have defects of character. And so right now we are all going through this workbook. It's called H2O, and it's hope, heal, and overcome. And every bit of it is biblically based. And basically what we do in recovery is try to get you to see what the underlying issues are, because whatever your addiction is, whether it's drugs, alcohol, your phone, gambling, whatever, is a symptom of what is really going on. Whether you have trauma or whatever you have in your past as a young adult, you carry over into the future. So we're trying to leave all the junk behind. And what that means is you take responsibility for yourself. Once you take responsibility for yourself, that's where your freedom comes in, because you're the only one that can control you, and controlling yourself is the only person you can control, period. And we do that on Mondays at 6 p.m., 6 to 7, the women's. We do only women's. Women's are separate from the men. Women don't like to share their innermost things in front of men. And things affect women differently than men.
It's at the housing authority.
At the housing authority every Monday. Even if there's a holiday, unless Christmas falls on it, we have it. So, anybody have any questions? Nobody has questions about recovery?
Are they open or closed meetings?
They're open to the public, but women only. Women. Yes, Ross will talk to you about the men's, but it is open to the public. We invite anyone, like I say, you don't have to have drugs or alcohol problems. If you have been repeating the same pattern over and over, whether it's habitual dating or you fast, whether it is responsibility, lack of responsibility, or self-pity, or pride, whatever the case may be, these workbooks and the things that we do just give you tools to overcome those issues. And it's all, to me, it's a heart transplant. The Lord works through your heart, but you have to have an open mind and an open heart to be able to do that. And then you have a whole support group to help you. We have women that come that's never had a drug or alcohol problem. So don't think that's all it's about. It's not just about getting your life on track for Jesus. And your behavior will line up once you do that.
I am a participant in this transitional program, change, however you want to say it. My support system is getting a lot stronger and I'm growing a lot spiritually.
So that's what Next Step's all about. We started with doing prison ministry, and then we realized, well, the problem is not just that you're in prison. You know, this person's in prison. There's a reason why that person's in prison. And so that's what led us, you know, to thinking, well, most prisoners have had a drug or alcohol addiction. And so as we got involved in prison ministry, there were people that didn't have a place to go after they got out, and either didn't need to go back to an old boyfriend or maybe the same old neighborhood mom. It could be mom. You know, so we wanted to provide them a place to come and get their life back together, and just a little spiritual support. We call it spiritual boot camp because we do Bible lessons and recovery work, and that's all God focused. And so we just want to help them all with their next step. They may be incarcerated, or maybe they've been drug rehab, or whatever the case may be, but we want to help them create a support group, and that's where the church comes in. Is, you know, when you see these people at Walmart or whatever, girls that have been with us, they can see a connection. Oh, that's a church person. It's someone I can, you know, trust, or I can at least have community with. And these are important parts of the church body. You're not, you know, you ever come to recovery, or whether you have a sister that needs rehab after she gets out of prison or whatever. We're there, and we just want to be a supportive church for people in transition, women in transition.
So it's a home.
And it's our home.
And
Yes.
how long do people?
Yes, sometimes the people have housing, it's residential care. And some provide housing, and some of our girls have gone to school. It could be, we've had 6-day girl, and we've had a 9-month girl that has taken 9 months. So just depends on that particular circumstance with that particular girl. So
Basically, kind of what it is it's the in-between step. You know, whether you're coming out of recovery or you're coming out of prison, this is the next step to try to acclimate you back to life in society instead of just straight out into the world, because if you have no practice, you don't know how to do it. And a lot of people want to skip the middle step, but the middle step is very important.
and teaching them, especially how to have clean and sober friends. You know, how to do things that are fun that don't involve drugs, alcohol, the boyfriend, or anything that can be dangerous.
This guy.
There wasn't a guy. Lots of,
Oh,
and
start.
that's the way prison ministry went. You know, when we go into prison ministry, like, you know, you look like a school teacher or an accountant or something, and so how did you end up here? And just a whole bunch of girls said,
So I
well,
used to date this guy.
there was this guy. Yeah. And so we're not blaming, we don't bash men, and we're not blaming men.
Say there was this girl.
Yeah. Yeah. And but sometimes it's the people you're around that help cause your problems, and that could be mom. You know, we're not bashing men. We're just saying sometimes there is this kind of. Sometimes it's mom. You know, this is the way mom. Oh, we know girls who. This is the way mom and dad were. Mom and dad always used drugs. My whole upbringing was mom and dad. No, they don't know how to have friends that just go to concerts, or friends that go to lunch, or that sort of thing. That's when helping get started in a new and better. God is the center.
So there was this guy, and his name is Jesus.
Yeah, his name is Jesus. That's right.
Thank you.
I'm just gonna follow up a little bit with that, just because there is a men's side of the Next Step Recovery group as well. We meet 7:30 on Tuesday, so it's definitely different, but
At the housing.
yeah, also at Housing Authority. But it's all about us just dealing with our issues. It's the habits, the hang-ups, the snags, whatever it is you want to call it, that we can't seem to ditch on our own. So yeah, for some people that's drugs, for some people it's pornography, for some people
get a job and save money, and then they'll get financial, get what it's called, but basically kind of like a financial class on how to save money, manage their money. It's completely volunteer based. So if you get your scholarship is based off of your participation in your classes, and your participation in your recovery, and participation in volunteering. So at any point in this 3-year scholarship, you decide that, hey, I have the tools that I need and I'm ready for the next step. You know, Gateway of Hope Comanche will provide you with resources so you can go on to, go into the transitional stage of moving out to be independent. But for anyone that you know, either you yourself or someone that you know that is, they're just kind of hopeless, and they need life skills, and they need support, and they need community, and they just need time to kind of focus on, dig deep in their belief system, and they want to follow Christ and just kind of hang up any of their old behaviors and begin a new way of life so that they can be, it's like, I would just say a dependable person that can support their family on their own. Like, that's really what it's about, is stepping out of any type of old behavior or any type of environment where you came from that you don't have the skill that you need so that you can provide for your family. Gateway of Hope will give you up to 3 years to be there and become a stable person. And one of the most amazing things that I saw in the brochure the other day, that I don't know why I hadn't seen it in the last over a year, I hadn't paid attention to it, but a family will come in kind of lost, and like I said, they're hopeless, and they will leave with not only their child, but they'll leave with a purse. There's a lot of women that come, we don't have a bank account, we don't have security, we don't have, for some reason, we just don't have a network or a family that has helped raise us so that we can raise our children. So it's just a huge blessing, and like I said, it's completely volunteer based. So you come in, you get the skills that you needed, and when you're ready to leave, Gateway will help you to transition into the next step of your life.
And the church tithes to all of these, out of your tithe, church
Yeah.
tithes to all of these ministries.
Yeah, so all the money we get as a church goes into basically ministry. That's part of why even when we're a small church like this, why we meet in our home. We don't have to pay a rental. And as long as it's reasonable, that's what we're gonna keep doing. And we might be hitting that ceiling because we're missing quite a few people today. And this would be full room if everyone did come, for sure. But at any rate, we just want to pour as much as we can back into the community, back into reaching people for Jesus, because he made a big difference in my life, and I know he makes a difference in anyone who gives him a chance. And so we're just looking to figure out ways to try to reach as many people and touch as many lives as we can. So Gateway's been a great way of doing that. Next Steps has been a great way of doing that. Both the recovery groups we do, Embrace Grace, all the other things we do. It comes back down to that vision that God's given us and mission that he sent us to do. So we try and filter everything through those. And so we're going to carry on. And, next week, we should be back to, I guess, a little more normal. Not talking about this, but we'll be back in the book of John. And so just want to encourage you guys, be in prayer for everything that's going on, because we hit the main things, but there's still some minor things that are going on that's coming up. Movies in the park, trying to host a meal in a trailer park, things like that we're doing. So just keep us in prayer. And if there's some way that you can see, some way that you feel God's telling you to help out and participate in whatever way, let us know. If there's something else that God's put on your heart that you feel like fits that mission, then and God's giving you that burning sensation that you got to go do this, and He won't let you rest, then let us know. Um, we'll see what we can do. So we're all about trying to reach out and disciple people wherever they're at. So at any rate, no.
We're, next week, the district once a year, and y'all helped us in the past, with Kairos Prison Ministry, and we go for an event, or a long-looking event, and that's coming up. And so there's lots of ways that you don't have to go into the prison to be helpful. But you had those applications that you could go in, right? I've got those applications. If you want to go into the event that one day, that one Sunday afternoon, that's one way to help. But we have these, if you commit to praying while we're in, just your first name on here and the city that you're in, we've got these, and it makes a chain that they put all the way around so that the prison girls know that they're not alone, and that they've got people all over the world praying for them. And then also, we provide the meals for the girls for 3 days. And if you wanted to sponsor a meal for one girl, the suggested donation is $5. So if you wanted to buy a meal, and we feed them really, really good, like fajitas and just all kinds of stuff. But I'm going to leave you with these meal tickets, and like I said, $5 suggestion. But if you wanted to do more, that's great.
First night.
Yeah, first time. And then if you want to commit to praying on that weekend, this is one of those things that, it's one day. Of course, if you want to pray for prisoners the rest of your life, that's a great thing. But if you feel like, hey, I can commit to praying for 3 days for some people, and that'd be great too. So I've got those.
Are the meal tickets, is that like in-person cash donation, or is there like someplace you can go and donate to?
No, it was this little ticket. You just fill that out, give me $5 or whatever you want to give, and I'll give that to you. And yeah, we would be honest with you. But in Matthew 25:36, God tells us, you know, to go to prisoners. Well, some people don't want to go to prison and talk to people and don't want to hear those gates slam behind them. But you can make cookies, you can pray, write your name on a card, get $5 per meal. There's lots of ways to go into prison that don't mean you walk into the buildings. So
Right.
anyway, that's what Kairos is all about.
It's good.
Yeah. Too, I forgot about our jail ministry here in Comanche too, that you and Tanya are part of also. We go in on Wednesday evenings from 6 to 7 to, visit with and minister with the girls in Comanche County Jail, trying to get to them before they get to prison.
Right.
And to let them know they're not alone too, so we could use all the prayers and stuff on that also.
And the local jail is wonderful to us. They are wonderful people and very inviting. So y'all just praise God for good local folks.
Absolutely.